between crack babies and meth babies.
Oh.
What's the difference between a crack baby and a meth baby?
Crack babies are super hyper, and meth babies are like, they can't concentrate.
Interesting.
Yeah. She had one kid bring a shoebox full of snakes to school in Council, Kentucky.
Fun.
Yeah. And this is not like Iowa is not the South.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's as far north as San Francisco.
Yeah.
Council, Kentucky.
Wow. That's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and say your name is like Clyde Grant.
Clyde Grant.
You're from Belton, Missouri.
Belton, Missouri.
Which is about...
Do they say Missouri?
They say Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah.
Who says Missouri? Is that Southern people?
Yeah, people that aren't from Missouri.
Okay.
It's kind of like how you hear people say New Orleans. That
New
aren't
Orleans?
from New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah. New Orleans.
It's like that.
Missouri.
So, yeah, your name's Clyde Grant.
Clyde Grant from Missouri.
You met Frederick Kleiss from Craigslist because you needed a job. And
He employed me.
well, you guys
versus the
like
other way around. Or we were partners.
you were partners.
Okay.
He put the ad up, and you responded. So like whatever that makes it.
Okay.
So and you guys still paint houses together, because like it's not like pop-up restaurants like make you rich.
But I'm like the lifelong house painter, and he's the. Or do I work with him on the restaurants? Or do I just do painting?
You just kind of hang out with him.
Okay.
You're like a.
I don't understand these restaurants.
You don't quite. Yeah. I think you
Frederick Kleiss.
don't understand
My name's Clyde Grant. Where am I from?
Belton, Missouri.
Belton. Where's that?
It's about 15 miles south of Kansas City.
Okay. Is it
So,
near
it's-
Oklahoma? How far down is Kansas City in the state?
It's like middle northwest on the Missouri-Kansas border.
Okay.
Um,
It's like 3 hours south of Omaha, is that right?
yeah, it's like 2.5 hours, 3 hours south, just
Okay.
on I-29.
Clyde Grant from Belton, Missouri.
You could speak with, because I've known people from Belton. It's like anybody else from like a country
Belton.
place that is quickly becoming suburban.
Clyde Grant from Belton. That's too southern. Clyde Grant.
What kind of accent feels most natural to you right now?
Clyde. Like, kind of like a flat Clyde Grant. But the problem is you can't project that voice. I don't know how good that microphone is.
It's pretty good. It's like, it gets everything really.
Clyde Grant. I'm Clyde Grant from Belton, Missouri. Yeah. I don't know. Is he like one of these guys who like grew up driving his pickup truck around listening to Metallica, drinking beer?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I know those
But
guys.
you're like smarter than that.
Okay.
You did not go to college,
I feel like I should have a baseball hat.
but you're smarter than most people that went to undergrad.
Okay.
And you have like an intuitive sense of folksy artistry that Frederick Kleiss like considers authentic.
Okay, I get it.
So
Yeah.
you guys are a team.
Okay. When he's doing his pop-up restaurants, do I advise him on anything?
Yeah, I think he seeks your advice about.
Frederick Kleiss. It's such a silly name. Who's playing Frederick Kleiss? Is it you?
Luke's gonna play him.
Is he? Okay. With that stash. Is he gonna twirl it?
Yes.
Did he grow it just to play him?
I hope so. I hope he's been growing that for a couple of years, just for
Just to be Frederick
this
Kleiss.
moment. But like part of his you guys never paint exteriors, and you never paint off-white. It's always pure white
Or eggshell.
or anything else,
Okay.
and never gloss. Like that's part of your ideological.
Well,
and
it's used for whores.
You've kind of been sold on Frederick's understanding of what is right and wrong,
Okay.
artistically speaking, I guess. Or not artistically, because Frederick wants to make things that appeal to the people.
Barnyard, Slop,
people.
Trough. So I buy into like the Marxist ideology.
Kind of, like inadvertently.
Yeah.
He doesn't sell it as Marxist, but it's Marxist. So I guess the thing that I would want to get is the day you guys met, and when you found his ad on Craigslist, and this was after you had moved from Belton to like Midtown Kansas City, all of 15 miles. But this is like
It's a big move for me.
This
Yeah.
is a big move for you. You're trying to show your family that you can make it in the big city, and you're trying to show your friends that you're not just, you know, a dumb kid that drives around in his pickup truck and listens to Metallica and drinks beer in the afternoon.
Oh man. Okay. Is it the kind of thing where like you're pretending that there's someone on the other side of the camera asking the questions?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So am I looking at you or am I looking at them?
Yeah, you can look at me.
Okay. We're talking about the day I met.
Yeah.
The day I met Frederick Glass. Okay. Are you going to ask me questions or you just want me to go?
I'll let you go,
Just
but
talk.
I'll ask questions.
Okay.
Here's your Zoom ass theater.
Yeah, right.
Theater.
I always get really anxious when I do stuff like this. Even when I'm drunk. Cat totally just fell asleep.
Bitch, you talking about me?
Crack my ass, bitch.
So the day you met Frederick, and
Is it gone?
yeah,
Okay.
and his big pop-up restaurant, it's been going for a while.
Okay. Outtakes. Damn. Well, I met Frederick. I moved up from Belton to Kansas City Midtown, and I mean, when you move to the big city, when you come up from the town, you gotta get a job, and so Craigslist. You know, I mean, that's the way it is these days. And I found his ad, and it was for painting, and I mean, I just figured anyone can do that, right? So I remember on Craigslist, you know how it's that thing where it's like you have to put your number in a weird way or else the computers will get it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't put your number spaced out in a certain way, like telemarketers will troll for it. Yeah. So that's for some reason I have this really specific memory of his weird ass looking number. So I called him up and he seemed like a normal guy. And I went and met him. And we talked about, and another thing that I remember, he was very strange, but he talked about how he never paints exteriors. I was like, this guy's, he's something else. There's something going on here. So we talked about colors, and I'm real specific about colors. And he noticed that my pickup truck was a shade of fuchsia, which was to him a little bit strange, but I think also appealed to him. And so we talked about off-white for some reason was something that always bothered us, you know, and eggshell white that's okay, and all these different shades of white is fine, but that one, for some reason, off-white, it's like, I don't know, you just can't, it's like one of those things that makes you sick to your stomach intuitively. You can't say why, but it just does. So, but yeah, I mean, I met him up at his house, and then we had some coffee, and he said that he put something weird in his coffee that wasn't milk because the milk was off-white that they had at the coffee shop. And he looked at it and he said, I can't put that in my coffee. And I remember we also had to drive real far to get to this coffee shop because the one that was by his house was too bougie. And it was like one of those little, you know what I'm talking about? Like one of those little, like hipster kind of, the coffee shops with like the piles of like magazines by the door and like the paintings on the walls. And it was like, they had little art shows on Friday nights, but it was like that kind of fake Monet, no one wants to look at it kind of shit, where you go in someone's house and you know you don't want to spend time with them because they have it on their walls. It's like one of those things. So we had to drive so fucking far to get to this place. And he made me turn off, I had a Slayer tape in my truck, and he didn't like it. And I thought that was interesting though, because a lot of people, they get, you know, I'm from Belton, and you get in someone's truck from Belton, and there's a case of Budweiser in the truck, and you're playing Slayer, they don't want to tell you to turn it off, because you don't want to mess with a drunk man listening to heavy metal on a cassette. But he was he had some balls on him, I'll tell you. He was like, can we, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm not feeling this right now. And so, but it was a day. We spent the whole day together. We got drunk. We just talked the whole time. You're good friends with someone when you can just talk to them the whole time about anything. We talked about the Chiefs. We talked about, oh man, that stupid ass waterfall they got in the Royal Stadium. We talked about everything. And then, it all just kind of went from there. I mean, it wasn't an offer of employment per se in the traditional sense, because it wasn't a long-term gig, but we agreed to hook up and try see what we could do, and then it just kind of snowballed, I guess.
Now, the thing that brought Frederick into the pop-up restauranting, I guess, fame, or you could say infamy.
Infamy, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever one would want to call it. It was the first time he cooked food for everybody while painting a house.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sent to a Mr. Goodsense, I believe. And
Mr.
he was standing in line, and he was getting food for everybody. And what he said to himself was, hey, I could do that. And I think the thematic arc of populist-oriented food for the people.
For the masses.
For the masses, as he says, was born in that moment.
And that was the thing that struck me as crazy about that day was that when you're working on a house, when you're painting, he and I paint the insides, you have people working on the outsides, you have people doing all kinds of construction where it's not this, I think people who don't usually do this kind of thing, they think it's like, oh, you're there and you're painting and you have the rollers and you're done and then you leave and then someone else comes in. But it's all this pandemonium happening at the same time, and the Mexicans are always there doing the yard work, doing whatever. And I don't mean to sound racist, but like that's what people hire Mexicans for in Kansas is they do the yard work. And you got the black guys there. Everyone is there working, and everyone eats different food. We all have lunch separately, And it was his crazy. It's one of these things where that he's a visionary because he sees something. And lunch is the most mundane thing in the world to most people, And he sees an opportunity in lunch to bridge the gaps of class and race and all these other things. And so he thinks, what if I could make one meal for all these people and we could all come together and share this? And it's almost like something that Jesus would do. I don't want to sound biblical, and because we aim to take, the religious dividers that separate people out of what we do. But Frederick does, obviously. I'm just painting houses. He saw this opportunity to bring all of these people together using just food, and we did it, and he did it, and that day was a beautiful thing. It was almost like a church picnic. All these people you wouldn't expect to see together were just together and eating and talking, and I was learning Spanish words from the Mexican guys, and la troca, I think is truck. We talked about my truck. We talked about El heavy metal, and you learn that think about you look at the Mexican guys like this and the mariachi, they like Metallica as much as the next man, and we just came together, and it was a beautiful thing.
Now when Frederick's idea of Barnyard Slop Trough, which has been revealed to you and a select group of people at this point, Frederick sought your counsel in determining the exact parameters of what constitutes a proper slop trough. You guys went to Amsterdam searching for the right kind of wood before coming back and deciding to make it yourself. Now I understand that Frederick is a very particular man.
That's for sure.
When it comes to these matters.
He is.
What do you think inspires him to search for these particularities?
I think it's partly with the wood. I would say it's almost intuitive. Where you go to Europe and Amsterdam, and you can put your hand on something and know it's not. How do you explain this? When you're from a certain place and you put your hand in the soil, you know that's your place to be. And when he put his hand on that wood and he felt the grain and the texture, he just knew that wasn't his people. It's a people, sure, and it's for those people that's their wood and that's their thing, but for him it wasn't. He just knew that you can hear the voices of time speaking through the wood, and he just knew that wasn't for us. That wasn't what he's looking to do. But I really think that a lot of his inspiration. I mean, obviously, when you're a child and he has this whole background in the sort of ideology of the masses being greater than the individual, and I would go in and pet it before school, and half the time I pet it be like really sweet and like purring and stuff. And half the time I would like reach my hand out to pet it and just bite me like for no reason. Yeah, like I'm not in the mood right now, I'm sorry.
Bitch, please, it's early.
I'm just so used to petting dogs where they like it no matter what you do.
Exactly.
These cats are like,
You're like, oh boy.
Well, like that cat's bigger than my dog, so I feel weird petting
Is
that
he?
cat.
Yeah. My dog is like.
It is bigger than your dog.
My dog's pretty big.
That cat has 5 pounds on my dog.
Chloe fucks people up. What kind of dog do you have?
Yorkie. And like I like big dogs. I grew up with a Vizsla. Like we were given this dog like a fucking purebred teacup Yorkie as a gift.
Yorkies are really
You
cute.
don't.
They're
Thank you.
They are
Thank
cute.
you.
But they have tracheal collapse.
My dog really likes him. Every time I give him his like nighttime treats, and if Jack brings his Merce over, he'll like put the treats by his Merce.
They are really cute, Yorkies.
This dog is great.
We had, I worked at Animal Medical Center for a while, just like the biggest animal hospital in the U.S.
Cool.
It's on like the Upper East Side in New York. And like a lot of
So fancy.
celebrities brought their animals in.
Of course.
Judge Judy.
Hell yeah.
I met Gerard Butler.
Oh, nice.
Who else? Tracy Jordan came in.
Ah.
Is it Morgan or Jordan? What's his
Tracy
real name?
Morgan.
Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And he came in, and I heard this guy talking, and I was like, that sounds like Tracy Morgan. And I looked. He came to my, we had like windows.
It is.
And he came to my window, and he's like, I have a dog. He was talking like that. And I was like,
Have you listened to his Fresh
My
Air
dog
interview?
has problems.
is that the one where he takes his shirt off? No,
No,
it's
that's
Fresh Air.
it's radio, but
Yeah.
he cries. It's pretty.
Does he really?
Yeah.
He was doing stand-up for people in the waiting room. I'm not kidding.
Really?
He was wearing a wife beater, sweatpants, and a blue leather jacket with blue fur trim.
Fuck yeah.
Sweet.
And it's like, you know that jacket probably cost about $5,000 or something ridiculous, and he's just in like probably like dollar.
And he was with this like 19-year-old Dominican woman.
Of course he
who
was.
was not his wife, but he was married at the time.
Oh.
He was interesting. Conan O'Brien came in. Zadie Smith, Juno. What's her name? Ellen Page.
Ellen Page.
Yeah.
She was in Trailer Park Boys season 2.
Zadie Smith was the one that I really got like anxious about. Interestingly enough, of all these famous people.
Better not fuck this animal up.
Sigourney Weaver.
Oh.
His real name is Susan.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck do you go from Susan to Sigourney?
President of the Yankees used to come in a lot.
Steinbrenner?
No, like the guy above him. No, the guy between him and Torre. What's the guy? Like the guy who
The
manages
GM?
like the business. Yeah, that
Cashman
guy.
or something?
Yeah, that guy. And I'm not. I'm from the part of New Jersey that likes the Phillies, so I had to bite my tongue when that guy was in there.
I'm like from Tokyo and Los Angeles. Like all I have is Los Doyers.
Those players.
Players.
I can't even like make it through a Dodgers game without getting kicked out of that stadium. So it's like.
My dad is like a lifelong Giants fan because my dad is actually from Pasadena, but he.
A lot of people in LA will like rep, you know, San Francisco.
Well, there was no LA team when my dad was little,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look
so. Are you filming the cat?
at Yes.
Well, I first met Friedrich when we were fucking the same whore.
Except I was just watching.
I was licking my own non-existent testicles. It was like that scene
Look at him. Look at him on camera.
in
Bud.
Tigerland where Colin Farrell fucked a whore.
Look at him.
He looks so good. Is it recording?
Yeah.
He's so pretty.
I wish I had a zoom. Let's zoom in on him right now. Hey, bud.
Kitty.
It's crazy how that green filter can just
Hi.
make it look so different.
His eyes look so blue.
He has so much,
That's
so
gonna
much
be great
hurt and
audio.
so much
That was me
love
getting
in him.
into character
There you go.
as Clyde Grant.
Like,
That's a
right.
good
Except for you do
name.
that like right by the mics. It's gonna be
Yeah.
so loud.
Clyde Grant.
Clyde Grant.
Clyde Grant.
Kitty, what you looking
I'm
at?
gonna toss this dick to somebody. Clyde Grant from Belton, Missouri. Missouri. I have to remember that because Alexis's parent, my wife's parents are from Virginia, and they say Missouri.
Oh, I'm
Oh
sure.
really?
Yeah. So that's just like I had that in my head. Missouri. Clyde Grant.
So you and Clyde are painting a house this weekend. You're going out to Mission Hills, painting some la-di-da
La-di-da.
type of house. But, you know, it gets good.
Mm-hmm.
Money's good.
Money's good. I mean, when you paint those la-di-das, money's always good.
Yeah.
But money, as Friedrich, what am I saying? As Friedrich would say, money is a transient thing. And, you know, when you grow up in a place like Belton, money is one of those things where people live paycheck to paycheck, so it's always about what you got this mountain of shit where when the next money comes in, it goes out and makes the mountain smaller, and then the mountain grows as the money is accruing, and then the money comes in again and the mountain goes out. But Frederick's whole philosophy is that of the irrelevance of, how do you say it? I mean, the irrelevance of that whole cycle and the way in which, you know, the money is not a thing and the bills are not a thing, but it's simply this sort of endless flow of nothingness from point A to point B, and beyond that, who knows where it goes, point C to point Z. But when you paint the big houses, you get the big money, and then, you know, when we first started, it was one of those things where when I really made big money living in the city, because when you come from Belton, Kansas City, you know, it really is a city when you're living Midtown, especially, and the money comes in, it's like, what am I going to get? I'm going to fix my truck up, I'm going to get some new tapes, and eventually I started buying CDs and MP3 downloads, and then you put those on the CD, and then you put them on the tape as a backup, because you don't want to lose them, and my truck doesn't have a CD player, so I just have a cassette player. But still, this process of money and Frederick makes you see it such that, you know, I would say, oh man, I spent too much at the bar last night and I was planning to do A, B, and C, and he would say something like, but, you know, you spend the money and the money's gone, you spend it and you spend it. It doesn't matter what you spend it on, it's there and then it's gone. It's like time, you know, and you have it and then you don't. And that was one of those very profound things that when we were painting houses that he really imparted upon me and that we came to share. Because one of the things about him is that it's not just this process of, you know, it's not rhetorical. It's not, let me give it to you and then you have it and that's your lesson. It's not this sort of patriarchal, it's not the teacher model of here's the wisdom and you take it. It's the, you know, let me give this to you and let you look at it and turn it over in your hands and then give it back to me. And it's this process of just giving, and then and it just grows. It gets bigger and bigger, and the concept evolves as it passes back and forth. More people come into the circle, and then you give it to them, and they give it back to you, and it just goes and grows. And it's an evolution more than anything.
Now, you and Frederick go out to bars a lot in Kansas City, and
That we do.
I'd say that you're fairly well known among the proprietors of certain establishments.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself within those social?
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, it depends on where, you know, I mean, bars go from $1.50 PBR to $15 whatever the fuck from some country where you don't even know where it's coming from. I think that you really, I mean, it's a whole spectrum of the worst of the worst bars you go in, and you almost feel out of sorts if they accept you as one of them, because you feel like you're not. I don't know if that sounds like an elitist thing to say, but you know, you go into some bars and it's like, I understand where these people are coming from, I identify with these people, but at the same time I am not these people. And
What makes you
they-
different from these people?
well, how do you put it? It's almost a sense of, I think that Frederick makes you believe in a future. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean? If you believe in what you're doing tomorrow versus what you're doing today, then you're going somewhere, you know? Versus the sense of, today is done, I go to the bar, I drink, that's what I do, and then when I wake up tomorrow, it's another process. When I'm done with tomorrow, I go to the bar and drink, versus I know what I'm doing tomorrow, and I know why I'm doing it tomorrow, and I know the point of what I'm doing tomorrow, and this whole sort of evolutionary thing of the, I don't want to say the future, because then you think of the Jetsons and flying cars and shit, but like, the idea that,
Did you want a flying car by now?
well, I mean, come on, right? I mean, it's what, 2013? I mean, who didn't think that at some point we'd have, you know, what's that movie with Tom Cruise with the Irish guy, Colin Farrell, and they're ripping out people's eyeballs, and, you know, I mean, the cars aren't flying in that movie, but they're doing some crazy shit, and that's like 2020, I think, so I would expect that we'd have something fancier than, I mean, the Prius is kind of creepy, I'm not going to lie, you can't hear them when they're coming around a corner, so when you've had one few too many beers and you're crossing the street and the motherfucking Prius is on your shin, that'll creep you out. It's like a giant fucking turtle coming around the corner. But, I mean, whew, flying cars. It'll creep you out, especially the way the Prius is shaped. With the, it's like a, what's that dinosaur with the big thing sticking out? It's the one in Jurassic Park that was sick, lying on its side, and the blonde lady put her head on it. Triceratops. It almost looks like a triceratops with no antlers. That's what you call it. Do dinosaurs have antlers? I don't know. Is that a deer? I don't know what dinosaurs have. But,
So Frederick brought you to Amsterdam, and then to.
Can I get you to the chair up about 2 inches and over that way, about an inch? Keep going a little bit more. A little bit more.
which way?
That way.
That way. I'm
Sounds
moving
good
to the
you.
left.
I think you're good.
I'm moving towards Noam Chomsky. Over here on the left. Don't tell my parents I'm moving to the left. I think
There
I'm
we
too
go.
far that way already.
We're good now.
I'm having dinner party with Howard Zinn.
So have your parents met Frederick?
And no, they don't come up really. I mean, I go back to Belton. I don't know, it's weird. You know, it changes and it's becoming a suburb, and it's one of those things where you think that you're from one place, but I mean, this ties into what Frederick really talks about in the idea of transience, and you kind of have this embedded idea of, you know, I'm from this one place, and then it's not that place. Every time you go back, it's a different place, and you know, it's a strange thing. But no, my parents, they don't really come up much. And the city's a bit much for them. My dad prefers to watch the games on TV because it's, you know, I mean, why not, right? You get a fridge full of $8 12 packs versus, I don't even know what they charge. And I was reading the other day, Yankee Stadium is $14 for a beer, $16 for, I mean, New York's a different thing, but
That's a whole other world altogether.
But no, I mean, you know, it's one of those things also where when my parents came up and then I introduced them to Frederick, it's almost like this intuitive understanding that the new world is severed from the old world, and to introduce them to one another would be too much of a juxtaposition for it to be able to coexist peacefully in one place at one time. So, you know.
What is the difference between the old world and the new world?
In the new world, whew, that's a question, man. I guess it
Now,
depends
your
on.
parents are from the old world, would you say?
Well, again, that's relative, right? I mean, speaking in my terms, they're from my old world. They're not from the old world as in Europe versus the Americas or anything like that. It really depends on what you define as, again, relativism, the old world. And in my terms, assuming that I am, however you want to put it, my parents would be the old world and Frederick would be the new world, and so he would be, this is a complicated ass metaphor, but he would be the United States and my parents would be Europe, and I guess I don't even know, I would be the Pilgrims. That's a strange thing to think about.
Did your parents go to church a lot?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Did you go to church a lot as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
You still go to church?
Nope. Not really. I mean, the Protestant thing is a unique thing in that it's not, you meet Catholics and they don't go to church and they tell you they're Catholic because it's almost a cultural thing they all know the same weird little ass prayers and they all grew up doing the same thing. And Protestant is so, the way that we talk with Frederick, we talk about the idea that, you're in there painting these rooms, you spend a lot of time there, you talk about a lot of things, and you talk about the idea that Protestantism is just so fractured that it's almost like a metaphor for the New World. To go back to the same sort of subject, and the idea that it's so fractured that you can't, a Protestant meets a Protestant, Methodist meets a Presbyterian, there's no common ground, and the Catholics are the old world, and they have that tradition that they grew up with, and they meet and they talk and they understand one another intuitively. But as a Protestant, as soon as you stop going to church, you lose that entire label. It just falls off you like an old skin, like you're a snake shedding. But with the Catholics,
So speaking of which,
yeah.
So your parents went to Snake Church.
Yeah.
And you went to Snake Church as a kid. And your parents still go to Snake Church.
People talk in tongues, and it's not snake like, that movie with what's the guy, I love the smell of napalm in the morning, and he was in that movie with talking with the snakes on his arms and shit. It wasn't that extreme, but it was, yeah. You go to church and then there's the choir and this weird thing about this idea that there's certainly an element of the black church in the church, but the church is white. But this is another thing that Frederick talks about, the idea that white people and white churches have all these ideas that come from black people and black churches, but we don't sit at the table after church. We don't sit down at the table to have the meal with the black people. It's this idea of the customs go this way and they go that way, but there will always be people divided. And I think that Frederick's great genius is the idea that he can stand above that and look down on it. Let me tell you, I had this moment once. I was in a convenience store and I was looking at the bread and the soda and the cooler in the back, and you go into like a convenience store and it's like a little shelf here and a little shelf there, and I had this moment where I sort of saw that it wasn't these individual areas, but it was one giant room filled with false partitions, and you realize that it's all emptiness to begin with, and people bring in the aisles and the shelves and the signs and all the things that distract you from the fact that you're just standing in an empty room. And and that's a moment of epiphany, where and that came after I met Frederick. We had these talks, and I walked into this store, and it just hits you like a wall, and you see all these things, and you understand, and you it's hard to describe, but yeah, I forgot the question, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, that's perfect. We just ran out of the card.
Oh, did we? Okay.
I just had enough time